Hi, this is Lacey from Bourbon House, and you're watching CMS TV.
Today.
Always carry Christmas, the holidays in your heart year-round. It can be Easter, April Fool's Day, July 4th. This song should always ring true. Fuck you, it's Christmas, I hate your shiny lights. Fuck you, it's Christmas, your shopping and your fights with your Frosty and Rudolph in silver and gold. Sweet little stories all told by the old. Your dancer and prancer and balls hung with care. Candlelight vigils, your sad little prayers. Fuck you, it's Christmas, your trees and all your malls. Fuck you, it's Christmas, your garland and your balls. Chubby old man bringing toys for the tots. 3,000 small babies all covered in snot. Bicycles, tricycles, cripples and the poor. Little baby Jesus curled up on the floor. Fuck you, it's Christmas, your Apple iWatch 2. Fuck you, it's Christmas, Alexa hates you too.
That was a happy little number, huh?
Nothing if not festive.
That's right. Well, joining us now here on Chris Aiken Presents is the one and only Jason Bieler, here to talk about Jason Bieler and the Baron von Bielski Orchestra with Postcards from the Asylum. So, Jason, welcome to Chris Aiken Presents.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
Dude, great to have you, man. I am a fan. It's the weirdest thing for me personally. Never really was the biggest Saigon Kick guy. You know, I think
me neither.
Sure you weren't. But I definitely love what you're doing now. I love this I'm going to call it hybrid music because I don't know how to really explain it. You know, I mean, some of it is definitely rock, some is metal, some almost feels a little jazzy. You know, talk a little bit. Let's start there, man. Talk a little bit about what you're trying to do musically now, you know, versus the old days when you were kind of locked into a box with Saigon Kick.
I think, you know, I'm just really in the business of amusing myself at this point.
Okay.
I do whatever. I've always grown up loving music. So, I mean, whether it was jazz, Meshuggah, Barry Manilow, Lizzo, like I just like what I like. So, you know, everyone always asks, like, what's your guilty pleasure? I'm like, I don't have it. If I like it, I like it, you know?
Right.
So I was always into doing diverse stuff. And I think the bands I grew up maybe having an affinity for, you know, like Queen or the Beatles or Bowie or, you know, those were always really adventurous kind of records. You know, I mean, they always went in different directions. And I think the kind of fun part of getting older is, you know, you have less and less worries about what anybody's thinking.
Sure.
About you specifically. First of all, most people aren't thinking about you, but you know, you're not concerned about like, oh, is this going to be cool? Or is this, you know, I just really make music that kind of I want to make. And the only thing that's important to me is that it comes from a place of, you know, like I'm interested. I really want to do that. Not like, oh, if I do this, it's going to appeal to this group of people or that group of people. So that's kind of where my head's at.
Sure. Is it difficult with that stance to deal with the commercial side of it? Because you and I both know when you it's one thing to write music and record music that you want to do. It's a whole nother thing to get a record company to say, okay, well, here's the advance and here's the studio and we're going to do 3 videos and we're going to do you know, all the businessy side to it. It's harder to get them to convinced to come on board without them saying, well, we want 10 songs, we want 2 ballads, we want, you know, they want the formula.
I mean, I think even back in the day, the Saigon Kick records, you know, obviously the ballad was this monstrous kind of driver hit thing, but
sure,
anybody who was a fan of the band kind of saw the records were really, you know, we horrified a lot of soccer moms who bought it for the, you know,
Love's on the way.
Yeah, you know, so but I've been just so fortunate, like at this point, you know, I mean, I ran a label and a studio for a long time. I don't need to convince anybody, you know, I mean, I'm not in that world anymore where I have to worry about convincing a label to, you know, buy into what I'm doing or not buy into it. I just, you know, it's not a factor. I mean, I'm not like a bitter guy who like hates labels. I mean, I think they're awesome.
Sure.
And I still got friends that work everywhere. I'm just lucky enough that I can do what I want when I want. So
Can you catch me up? How are you doing, man? I'm Eric.
Eric, nice to meet you. Jason.
Pleasure to meet you. As a kid who totally remembers Love Is on the Way, like catch me up to what happened with the band. Like it was the 90s, right?
Yeah, our first record came out in 91. We did a lot of amazing touring early on. I mean, we played with the Ramones, played with Ozzy, played with Cheap Trick. And we kind of I would guess we kind of got caught right in between, like when, you know, the hair metal movement kind of was ending and we were hated by all those bands. And then we had a massive ballad hit. So that meant we were automatically going to be hated by all the new grunge bands.
Right.
So we kind of went right down the middle. But I think, you know, you could make an argument that Extreme was kind of in a
I was just going to say Extreme.
Yeah.
Right.
And
right
King's X, I think, got caught in the middle of that too.
Mhm.
Another great band that, you know, didn't really fit necessarily in and I don't say hair metal in a derogatory sense. I just mean whatever that was of the time. It didn't fit there, and it didn't fit with the Nirvana.
They played it in grocery stores, both those songs. Your song, Extreme song, you'd be like in the grocery store. They were
going back to why I can do whatever I want when I want.
That's right.
Right.
Damn right.
You know, the interesting thing too, Jason, is at the time, those bands that you're talking, especially the grunge bands, distanced themselves. But if I'm not mistaken, some of those big grunge bands have cited Saigon Kick as an influence. I know distinctly, I remember hearing Alice in Chains, you know, Lane Staley saying they loved what you did.
We came from Florida, so we weren't part of like a scene.
Right.
So we didn't know any better. Like, you know, even the Mighty Pantera was a glam band.
Sure.
You know, and Alice in Chains was a glam band. And, you know, a lot of those bands came from that scene. They were just smart enough to see the turn happening and going like, okay, we just got to disassociate from all that, as to where we were kind of like, you know, oh, we'll tour with the Ramones, but we also would tour with Rat. Like, I didn't care. I just wanted to tour and play. And we weren't thinking in that marketing sense of like, oh, association with this or that. And we had a ballad on the first record, you know, it didn't become a hit, but we didn't really change anything we were doing.
Sure.
Like to have it. It just kind of happened. And we didn't even release Love Is on the Way as a single. A station started playing it kind of on their own. And it just, you know, it blew up. So, you know, it was I like to think that we were the last ballad. We kind of killed off hair metal at that point. If it weren't for us, grunge would have never happened.
There you go. You'll take all that credit,
I
right?
take all the credit.
Exactly. Well, Jason, you know, as a guitar player, and Eric is a guitar player. He plays with Stephen Piercy. So I'm curious
just brought up Rat. See,
yeah, there you go.
Stephen, I said, hey,
yeah, I will tell him. Thank you.
So for you, you know, once Saigon Kick had kind of run its course, we've seen a lot of the guys like yourself that can really play guitar that went on to be kind of like the second and third tier guys for the reworked Warrant or the reworked Rat or the reworked Docket or whatever. I don't ever recall seeing you do that ever. Did you just not want to do that, or just didn't put yourself in that circle, or what?
I mean, as much as I'd like to boldly say, you know, I had a stance of being a raging individual, I don't think I was on that short list of people to call. I mean, I think I just do what I do kind of, and I've always kind of played with my own toys and made my own world. And so I don't think when people think of like, you know, getting a guy to come in and fill the shoes of a, you know, like someone like Warren DeMartini or something who's, you know, as good as it gets. You know, I just don't think I was in that. And I also didn't live in LA. I didn't live in Nashville. I didn't live in New York. I wouldn't say I'm antisocial, but I just kind of lived in my own world. So I was never networking. Like, I don't know anybody.
Okay.
You know,
LA sucks, man. I just had to spend a couple days in LA. I fucking hate that place. But anyway, go on.
But you know what I mean? Like, if you're not in the mix of everybody who's
Sure
doing stuff, you're not in the mix of that. So I wound up, you know, starting a label and worked with a bunch of bands, and was lucky enough to, you know, work with a band, signed a band called Nonpoint.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
They were on my label. Skin Dread from the UK was on my label. Carnival from Australia is another amazing band that we worked with. You know, Uncle. I mean, I really had a great run of producing and working with a bunch of bands, and the label became, you know, pretty successful. So between producing and running the label, that kind of took up a lot of time.
Sure.
And then once that kind of got where it was going, I just realized I hate all bands. I hate all musicians. I hate all labels. You know, I shouldn't say hate. I just realized, like, I think I'm better off doing exactly what I want to do, not trying to convince anybody else that it's right or wrong. And knowing that it could be right and wrong, I just wanted to just do what I wanted to do selfishly and kind of do that. And that's kind of where the last couple of years, you know, has kind of come from. The first record that came out like a year and a half ago, I had a bunch of my friends play on it. So I had like everybody from Bumblefoot, Clint Lowry, Devin Townsend, Clay Cook from the Zac Brown Band, and Butch Walker, and, you know, the list goes on and on of people that I got to work with. And I was just super fortunate that it took, strangely enough, it got like embraced by the prog world.
Right.
Which never even dawned on me like that they would embrace, but it was kind of cool because that crowd really had no idea of my past. So,
right.
I mean, granted, I wasn't in Metallica, so it's not like, you know, it was surmountable. You know, you're in Metallica, though, you're not going to be rediscovered.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? So Saigon Kick wasn't that big. And so a lot of people found the band, the new band, and I've developed a whole new kind of, you know, second, you know, wind here career-wise, and it's just been awesome.
Sure. Now let's dig into the new stuff, Jason. You obviously just put out or just released the EP, I guess, Heathens, which is 6 songs that are from the forthcoming record, Postcards from the Asylum. And I've heard both, you know, which, you know, I've heard the whole thing. So I've got a pretty good understanding of what you're trying to do. And much like Songs from the Apocalypse, there's no real path in this thing. It definitely winds all over the place musically. For you, do you write like that, or do you write all the time? So is that how you get different ideas and different song structuring, is because you don't write all in one session?
For me, I mean, music kind of comes to me in one piece.
Okay.
So my biggest battle is just kind of getting it all down before I get distracted or, you know, anything happens. So it takes me that's really the biggest focus. Even a lot of the lyrical content is all coming at once. But I don't think about, like, I mean, I just, you know, and I don't mean to seem sappy about it, but I just love music. So I'm just as happy listening to Miles Davis as I am listening to, you know, the new Haken record, to, you know, the new Extreme record, whatever. Like, I mean, I just, you know, when people do stuff at a high level, every musician I know digs it, you know, for the most part. There's not a lot of people that won't, you know, musician wise, that don't dig that. So, and I just pursue things that, you know, sonically kind of hit my ear, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to pursue this and figure out where it leads, kind of.
Right.
That's
on.
the way I think about it, at least.
Right. Now you mentioned a couple minutes ago that you on Songs from the Apocalypse that you had a bunch of guests. This time you have several guests as well, but it almost looks like, and again, this is outsiders, just a fan looking at the list of names, it really looked like you went more to not as well-known guys, but maybe guys that you respected more as musicians. Like, you know, the guy from Spock's Beard comes immediately to mind.
Spock's Beard.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. He's a ferocious keyboard player.
Yeah. I mean, was that the key this time, was to find people that were more, in your mind, musically diverse, or is it just who you called at this time?
It really, well, I mean, Marco Miniman is one of the greatest drummers in the world. He plays with, you'll know, Guthrie Govan. I mean, he's in the Aristocrats.
Right.
So he's, as terms of a drummer, he's got to be in the top 10. I've never seen or heard anything like it. So to get a chance to work with him was awesome. And Todd Kearns is a buddy of mine, so I've known him for a long time. He's in Slash's band, Slash and the Conspirators, and super talented guy. And we had become buddies, and it really winds up being one of these things like where I'll finish something and be like, I should call Todd. and I'll send him a song and he'll be like, oh, let's do that. And Rio from Spock's Beard, I knew because Jonathan Mover, who used to play drums for Satriani, and he called me up to do this prog thing he was doing, and Rio was the keyboard player. So I met Rio from that, and then as soon as I was like, I can kind of play primitive piano, the ham fist piano stuff, but I was like, this might be cool if I got someone who can really play, Hammond, and so I called Rio, and Andy Blacksugar, who plays guitar on a lot of the stuff with me. I can't speak highly enough of him as a guitar player. I mean, he's played with everybody from Peter Murphy to KMFDM. He's Blondie's go-to touring guitar player right now. And he's one of the few guys I know that, like, especially in the guitar world, there's like guys who shred, or there's guys who are kind of like sound guys that can do really cool parts. There's very few guys that, like, if you talk to Andy about doing an Yngwie riff, he's on it. If you said do an ambient Brian Eno thing, he's on it. Like, he just, again, he's a music guy. So he does the coolest things. And he's been really a huge part of the music. And I worked with the same drummer from the last record called Edu Cominato from Brazil, who's another phenomenal talent. I just been so lucky, I mean, to work with some really brilliant people.
Sure. No, it shines through because it is so musical. If you listen, especially listening, it's one thing to listen to the EP, but it's a whole nother, it's a weird thing with your music, at least the new record to me. Listening to the EP is a totally different listening experience from listening to the whole album, because the whole album has so many more hard turns, where I think the EP is a little more consistent, I guess. Does that sort of play the way you think, or no?
It's funny because the first record is a double record. The second record is the double record. And I know most people don't listen that way anymore, so the record was the full experience of the record is kind of geared towards someone who wants to put headphones on, listen for the ambient stuff that's going on, listen for the different panning and where things are at. And at the same time, I didn't want to make a record that could only be understood that way. You know what I mean? Like, even myself, records I want to hear, I have a hard time sitting down for an hour to just uninterrupted listen to a record like that anymore. Just our lifestyle isn't. So, I wanted the songs to stand on their own. And then for those people who want to open up a double record, and like I did when I was a kid, and read through all the insanity of the credits, and and hear all the stuff that's going on, it was that experience too. That was kind of where my head was at.
Right, definitely. Now, Jason, I gotta ask, just because the musicology nerd that I am, when I saw the title, Postcards from the Asylum, my brain automatically went to, I've heard that name before, even though that's odd. And I went and I had to dig around a little bit, but it is the same name as a Hellion record from the 80s. Is that where you got this? Or is that, there was an album in like 1986, 7, 8, somewhere in there by that band, Hellion, that was called Postcards.
I mean, I've heard of that band, but no, my apologies to them.
So no crossover, no. It just happened.
No,
to be that
it
way,
became kind of apparent. Like, when you listen to only when I finished the record and we had all the lyrics written out and was kind of proofing it, and my wife was kind of looking through them, going like, "I need to get a restraining order. You have serious issues." Like, when you started reading it, that I was like, "Wow, this really is kind of it's a really weird. It's almost a concept record, like a mental decline of somebody in many ways. Like, if you actually read through it." So Postcards from the Asylum just came, and it also sounded like it was very analogous to the Songs for the Apocalypse, which was the first record. Right. It just felt like it rolled. So no, there was no Hellion connection, and my apologies to them.
I don't know. You need to apologize. I mean, I think the statute.
Well, we have him on the phone right now.
Yeah.
No. I can't wait for that lawsuit.
Please. Nah. Somehow I doubt they're worried.
Headline on Blabbermouth tomorrow. Bieler rips off.
We know a guy. We could get you the trademark. We know
it's
a guy.
Right. Somehow I think Hellion will be thrilled that they're being mentioned in any interview in 2023.
I should be so fortunate that my record does well enough to cast a wide net and bring their fans onto their catalog as well.
There you go. Perfect. Well, Jason, with this record, I know with the last one, you released it through Frontiers, or I don't know. I'm assuming a distribution deal, more or less, because just from the conversation we're having, I'm assuming it was a distro deal. This time, unless I'm mistaken, you're self-releasing it, or you're releasing it through Bandcamp. Is that right?
Well, no, I did a distribution deal through a company called Amps, which is like Alliance. They're like one of the bigger independent distributors in the country still.
Okay.
And I did a one-off deal with Frontiers. You know, they were great to me. You know, they would stretch out, and I kind of was like, guys, like, no disrespect, but like, this is not going to be a record full of like, you know, fast cars and hot chick songs.
Sure,
and, you know,
sure.
I knew I was going to be the bastard stepchild going into it. But they were actually really cool to me, and it opened up a lot of opportunities, but it was a one-off deal. So I knew I was going to kind of move back to this format. And like I said, I had a label for a long time, so kind of knew. And also, like, and again, not that people at labels don't have value to add to stuff. I'm just at the point where I don't want to sit in a marketing meeting anymore and convince anybody of doing anything. And, you know, I don't want to sit there and have a guy go like, what if he wore a different hat? You know, he very well may be right.
I've thought about that for you.
Yeah, did you? Thank you. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just don't want to be a part of that stuff anymore. And not because I know better, just because I just know that I just want to do my thing for better or worse. So
sure. And let's face it, you go to a label like Frontiers, you're always going to be the back burner guy, you know, unless you're Journey. You know, and that being said, I mean, I love Nick Teeter. I have a business that I do with Johnny Gioeli. So Lord knows I know the Frontiers world well. And that being said, that's a tough sell for anybody that didn't sell 30 million records, because that's
I have to say, like, you know, not to speak out of turn, but we've all heard of some disgruntled people.
Sure.
That maybe weren't thrilled. I didn't have that experience. Nick was awesome to me. I think we wound up with a great start for this record. I wouldn't be in the situation I'm in now to do the next record had they not done such a good job.
Sure.
So yeah, I mean, I wish, because it's so in vogue to just say the label screwed everything up and I hate them, and
right.
you know, it's just the thing. But they didn't. For me, it wasn't a bad experience. I still talk to a few of the guys over there all the time. So it's one of those rare. I wish I could tell you like we had a bloodletting or something, and there was a stabbing and bodies are missing, but it just wasn't. Not in this particular case.
Right. Very good, man.
Awesome.
Well, Jason, you know, outside of the Baron von Bielski Orchestra, you do a ton of shows and work with a good friend of mine, Jeff Scott Soto. And I mean, Jeff is like the most awesome guy in the world. He's also the busiest guy in the world. You know, I mean,
hardest worker man in showbiz.
Yeah, just amazing. It's like, every time I talk to him, I joke that I'll talk to him next month with his next project, because he's always there's Wet, there's Talisman, there's Soto Solo, there's, you know,
I always joke, but between him and Mike Portnoy, people are lucky they can even get a job anymore in the music business.
Exactly. It's crazy, but somehow you've wedged a way to cut out some time every year to work with him. I'm assuming, and if I remember right, you and he were in Talisman together. Is that correct? Way back in years ago?
To try to make a long story short, when I was about 18 years old, I played guitar on a demo for somebody that I wasn't really paying attention to.
Okay.
And Jeff had just left Yngwie and was looking for a band. So this bass player sent that demo to Jeff.
Okay.
And Jeff was like, I don't like the bass player, but who's the guitar player? And at that time, you know, Yngwie and Randy Rhoads, that was king of the world. There was no bigger names in rock guitar. So to get a call from Jeff Scott Soto at my mom's house was like getting a call from Ronnie James Dio. I mean, I was like, what? You know, oh my God. And I flew out to LA and we worked for a couple of weeks just messing around. And then a few months later, or whatever, I got a call from him and Marcel Jacob, who was the bass player in Rising Force, who's just one of the great bass players of all time.
Right.
And they brought me over to Sweden. And so I wound up touring with them probably on and off for almost a year, like just doing all around, you know, Finland, Norway, Sweden. Jeff gave me my first professional gig. Like Saigon Kick was kind of starting at the time. So when I'd come back, we'd work and do shows and go back and forth. So I've known Jeff since I was literally 18 years old.
Okay.
And this came about just, I wanted to initially go out and just do some songs acoustically because, you know, no musician has ever played their songs acoustically live, to my knowledge, prior to my doing so.
Right.
But I thought it'd be a good way to see if the songs worked. You know what I mean?
Okay.
For me, it was more like a song research. Like, because if you have a great song, it should work in theory with just an acoustic guitar and the melodies.
Sure.
And so I went to LA. Jeff wound up coming up and singing a few songs with me, and I was like, "Oh, this is really fun." And we started doing shows around the country, like, but more from like just a buddy thing. Like, you want to go eat at that sushi place in New York City? We'll play Rockwood Music Hall. We'll stay at that awesome hotel, and
Right.
we'll do the same in Chicago, and we'll do the same in Nashville, and we'll do the same. And it started taking on a life of its own, and it's been selling out all over the place amazingly, and it's become like a half vaudeville, half nonsense, you know, poor man's way into comedy. When the joke bombs, and here's a song you might know.
Right. Well, it's a fun show. I mean,
Yeah.
you were here in Cleveland, what, 5 months ago or 4 months ago or
Yeah.
something, you know, so it is, it's not a full musical show. It's a show. It's not a concert. That's the way I would put it to explain it to people. It's much more of a show than a concert of here's our next song. Here's our next song. You know,
Yeah, I mean, there's no rules. It's really conversational. Jeff and I probably drink more than we should during the show.
right.
But it very much responds with how the crowd's feeling and the energy, like the energy in the room. And, it just comes from a place of, that whole thing is about having fun. First and foremost with my friend.
Sure.
And then bringing people into that vibe where, like, I want it to feel like, like a beer festival in Germany where there's just a ton of tables, everyone's having drinks and having fun and conversations. And the song choices are bizarre, as you would know from the,
Sure.
It makes no sense. It's everything from Dua Lipa to Slayer,
Right.
to some of the Saigon Kick stuff, some of the stuff from Jeff's catalog. And yeah, but it's, it's like, another thing for me, it's like, it just proves when you do not set out to start a business or say, here's a way we can go do this show and make a ton of cash. And it literally came from, like, I love that restaurant in Dallas.
Right.
And let's go have, let's go. And it's just grown into this cool thing now where we're now having a hard time finding all the time to do the shows that are coming in, which is an amazing problem.
Yeah, no question. Now, I just want to go back just for a second. After Talisman, when you went to Saigon Kick, did you lose touch with Jeff and rekindle recently, or were you always like
We've always
stayed
in
obviously
touch? He's, like I said, I was just talking to him 20 minutes ago. He's at an airport in Houston on his way to Brazil. But we always stayed in touch, and always, he would come to my shows, or if I, I went and saw him in Germany. I mean, just everything. We always kind of stayed in touch. I mean, that period of time in those first gigs, when, for me, like, I was literally like delivering sub sandwiches, like, part-time.
Sure.
So when you get a gig to go tour, and at that time, I don't know what I was making. I was making like $1,500 a week. I didn't have a bill in the world. Right. I wasn't even legally allowed to drink yet. I was in this magical place of Sweden. It's always going to have this Wizard of Oz memory set to me, and the people that were involved in that, before all goes to hell and you become, and Spinal Tap becomes your actual reality when you get back to, that was kind of the magical moment of, oh my God, I have like actual cash in my pocket, and
right.
And I'm seeing all these different places and stuff. So yeah, we've always stayed in touch.
Okay. Very cool, man. Well, Jason, moving back to the new release, you like we said, you have Heathens that's out now that people can check out. It's on all the streaming platforms if you want to get a 6-song taste. And then the full-length record, when does the full-length release, Postcards from the Asylum, actually hit for people?
It comes out April 14th.
Okay.
That'll be all the CDs and stuff like that. On Bandcamp, what I did was, I've been really lucky with a lot of people who have been very supportive on that platform, whatever they call it, platform, website. So we did a limited run of double red vinyl for all those people.
Okay.
And then we're doing an indie exclusive for all the indie stores around the country. We're doing a double yellow vinyl, and then there'll be double black vinyl. But that obviously will follow a little bit when the vinyl gods decide to manufacture the vinyl.
Sure.
We'll get that.
Is that in Germany? Who does the vinyl? Is it that place in Germany that Frontiers use?
No. This one's doing. I did it in Canada, a place called Microform, which seems to be awesome. I mean, so far they've been great. But that place in Germany that does all the Frontier stuff did a great job too.
Because we did a couple of Piercy records on there, and I remember we got some not picture discs, but colored discs from that Germany company. They were pretty cool.
I'm surprised, man, because to be honest, I mean, everyone always yells at me. I don't even own a record player.
Me neither.
They send me.
I don't want one.
They send me test pressings. I'm like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this. Like,
Look at it.
Same.
But and I think that 50 to maybe 75% of the people that buy it don't even open it. They just it's a collector's thing. But hey, man, people, I'm just thankful people are supporting the music and whatever makes them happy.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, for with new music, the thought of touring is always there for especially anybody that likes it. Are you planning to get out there? Now you've got 30 songs. You've got enough to actually go out there and do tour with, as well as the Saigon Kick catalog and everything that you've done in between. Do you plan to tour, or is that not in your wheelhouse with this project specifically?
I definitely want to do the touring part of it, but as anybody who's touring right now knows, it's not. I want this record, not that it has to. I don't by any means think it's a huge thing, but I want it to be done right. Like the record deserves to be put on in a show the right way, and that's really difficult to do. Throw and go, opening up for somebody else for 45 minutes, and like just on and off. And it's kind of, I want to make sure that the two records, not that both will be fully played because no one has 9 hours to sit there, but that when we do the show, it's the right kind of presentation for the record, and that it's 100% what people would want and kind of expect from it. So maybe towards the end of the year, we're looking at some stuff and into next year. And, but it's just, it's also, I'm really like an asshole. So like, I don't want to play places I don't want to play just to get to the places I do want to play.
Sure.
I don't want to be stuck on a bus for those 3 shows that kind of make the operation get to the other 3 shows that you really want to do, which makes me impossible to tour because, you can't take a great band out for 3 days a week.
Right. No, it makes a lot of sense, man. Well, dude, I figure we'll wrap this one up. We'll let people know one more time. It is Postcards from the Asylum coming in April from Jason Bieler and the Baron von Bielski Orchestra. And if you can't wait till then, which you shouldn't, you should get your taste now. Go online, listen to Heathens. It's a six of the songs. So it's about roughly half of the record that you can hear now to give you a good taste. And Jason, where should we tell people to go to keep up with you and the eventual tour dates and next time you run with Soto and all that stuff?
My only fan site is no, I'm just kidding.
I was getting ready to get it.
I'm Jason Bieler pretty much everywhere.
Okay.
So Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I have not yet ventured into the TikTok land because I don't feel like I have a viral dance in me to warrant that yet. But if I should come up with something that I feel will light those socials on fire, I'll do it. But yeah, so I mean, pretty much all the typical places.
Okay, very cool.
What about if we got a cat to sing one of your songs? Meow 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 meow.
Dude, it'll be bigger than the original. I assure you that.
There you go. Just made your viral video.
Yeah, then you'd have your TikTok video with.
Feel free to make a video for me if you'd like. I mean,
I'll get right on it for you.
This face ain't gonna blow up any social media stuff. So
we love you, man. Come on.
Nice. Well, Jason, I figured what we would do is we would wrap this up with a little taste of the lyric video that you put out for Sick Riff. Tell us a little bit about this one to kind of wrap this up.
A friend of mine from England, his name's Tim Fox. He was kind enough to make a little loop for me for that song. That song's kind of it's a poor man's Meshuggah in the sense that it's in a kind of odd circling time signature. And it was just kind of my lyrically, it's kind of tongue in cheek in the sense because I was just so tired of hearing every band of my era genre always going like, in this riff, this is our heaviest record yet, and I'm like, dude, just make a good record. It doesn't have to be a heavy record,
right?
And just kind of all that, the riff is sick, and so it's kind of more of a tongue in cheek thing. But yeah, that's where it came from.
Okay,
that
very cool.
Kind of a snarkiness,
right? Well, one more time, it is Postcards from the Asylum. It's Jason Bieler and the Baron von Bielski Orchestra.
You're going to get bonus points just for saying that so many times.
Well, I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to lie. It's written down right here on the screen so that I didn't screw it up.
That's the whole reason I named it that, to just watch people stumble over it. It's so much fun.
That's, it's funny. I was just watching, I do a show with Joshua Toomey, the Talk to Me podcast that you did last year. And watching him tongue tie over that, I was like, like, I got to make sure I do not fuck this up.
You've been way too professional for the likes of me, I have to say.
Nice. Well, Jason, man, it's been great catching up with you, man. People should definitely check out Postcards from the Asylum as well as Heathens out there between now. Some of it's out there now. Some of it will be out there in April. And Jason, thanks so much for joining us here on Chris Akin Presents.
Thanks
Good
so
to
much
meet you,
for having
Jason.
me, guys. It's great to meet you, buddy. Tell Steven I said hey.
I will definitely tell him. Best of luck to you, brother.
All right, bro.
man.
Take care, man.
guys. Thanks.